All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I appreciate you giving us your take on that, Stephen.
My pleasure.
So Amazon draws 1 million new sellers in 2024. In 2024, Amazon attracted over 900,000 new sellers globally, with a third joining the U.S. marketplace, reflecting continued interest in its platform despite rising fees and fierce competition. However, many new sellers struggle to gain traction, with most sales volume still dominated by businesses that started over 5 years ago. While Amazon's growing seller base indicates sustained appeal, it also highlights the platform's challenges, including increasing costs that sellers must navigate. For Amazon sellers, this underscores the importance of building sustainable, competitive strategies to thrive in a rapidly evolving marketplace. So, first thoughts, guys, that Amazon still drew in almost 1 million new sellers in 2024.
Yeah, that's a really big number, to be honest. Higher than I would have anticipated personally, just based on my own sales acquisition channel. There is a lot more interest this year than last year, 24 compared to 23. If you look at the bar chart there, and then if you look at the historicals, that's way above the averages.
Yes. And one key thing that I did not say in the description there about the story is this piece right here that I have highlighted. Roughly a third of them joined the Amazon.com marketplace in the US. So
I was going to ask that.
Are outside the USA.
Yeah. Yeah. That, I mean,
China.
Yeah. Basically.
Mostly China, for sure.
And what do you think this is? Because I'll tell you what I think. I think these are like, hey, we got banned. We might get banned. Let's get 4 other accounts going so we can flop over to them when this one gets suspended.
The sellers that I work with generally don't do that, although certain categories like book sellers or supplements 100% do that.
Yeah.
But from my experience, they're not opening new accounts. Typically, they're buying a dormant one. So I don't know that number is going to reflect too much of that unless we're psychoanalyzing China specifically. And in that case, they'd be like, yeah, I bet you 400,000 of those are dupe accounts in China.
Yeah.
Still, nonetheless, that's a lot of monthly fees that Amazon's collecting, and that's going to benefit anybody in the ecosystem, regardless of the truth of how effective these accounts are, because that just means there's demand.
I don't think that this is 1 million sellers. Well,
like 1 million people who signed up for seller accounts.
Yeah.
Now it does. I think
there's still a lot of interest out there.
What was that, Neil?
There's still a lot of interest out there. Like I have 2 personal friends who actually just started selling on Amazon about 2 months ago. They were dead set on doing it. They wanted to try and do it, and they started and they had no idea what they were doing, but they're doing it now, right? So there's still interest from those small sellers. I mean, I think that hype train of, work 3 hours and sit back and collect cash, I think that's mostly died down from those influencers. But there's still those emerging marketplaces where there's still quite a bit of opportunity. Like I think about Germany, I think about UK, I think about Canada especially. I love
Japan.
I love it when people launch products in Canada because it's such a small marketplace where the CPCs don't crush you down, right? Where in the United States, the CPCs are just rising year over year, and it's just getting harder and harder and harder. And I like to say we're in late stage Amazon. So those small sellers get crushed out by everything else. Where the Chinese, they'll be opening accounts like crazy. There's no question that that's happening. But I'd be interested to see what kind of numbers are happening coming out of Europe.
Yeah, for sure. Canada, I think, is definitely a good option. I was speaking with a person the other day. That's his primary place that he sells is up in Canada. And he mentioned as well how awesome it is that ads are so much cheaper there than in the US.
Yeah, I did a podcast with Gary Huang, and he showed me the difference between the top selling yoga mat here and the top selling yoga mat in Japan. And it's literally 90% less reviews, and probably we didn't specifically check competition, but where ours in America had 80,000 views, that one had like 800. So that's like 0.1%, I think. But
anybody that wants to launch you a yoga mat in 2025. Do these 3 things. Make it not smell, make it stickier, and make it not fall apart. And we know this because I've looked at those 80,000 reviews and ran it through AI, and those are the 3 things customers want to do. But Japan, Germany, those are 2.5 times the size of the market in Canada. Very sizable marketplaces. We did see a surge in interest in Japan this past year.
Yep.
Much more difficult to make that language barrier. And then you got the geopolitics and the taxes and that and everything else that goes on and going to these foreign countries. And I would say 91% of my customers who are primarily US-based sellers do not sell in a second country and have no interest to do so, which could be somebody that's watching this could be your opportunity to go do that if you are interested. But most people that do it regret it, back out of it. It's just a lot of headache.
Yeah, I sold in the UK pre-Brexit, and it was easy then, though, right? Like at that time, Amazon had reached out to me and they said, "Hey, we'll create a VAT for you if you sell in the US." We're like, "Yeah, cool, let's do it." And we just sent inventory into the UK, and it went all over Europe. Post-Brexit, though, it's horrible. You have to have a VAT in every country. And you don't necessarily need to hold inventory in every country, but I learned recently from Yana from YLT Translations that if you are holding inventory in Germany, a lot of other countries like Bulgaria, God, I hope I'm saying that's the correct country, but anyhow, they buy from Germany and then Germany ships out to those other countries that doesn't have Amazon, which is why it's such a large Amazon community. It's not just the Germans that are buying Amazon Germany, but it's I wouldn't, unless I had, so like my buddy Carlos, he likes to say that if you don't have 30 to 50K, don't bother starting a private label on Amazon, right? And I would say probably if you don't have even more than that, don't bother going into another country because you're gonna have to pay.
Agreed.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to pay a company. Like I wouldn't bother doing it all yourself unless you're a glutton for punishment and reading international laws, you know. But yeah,
if you are reading Amazon's patents, this is for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are a few people on LinkedIn that do like reading Amazon patents.
Yeah.
When I was a seller, I would launch. When I was a seller, I would launch all my products in Canada first, and I found it was much easier in terms of review generation. And so then I would, scale up to about 100, 150 reviews, and then I would consider migrating them over into the US, where it's the chance of failure is just so much higher, right? Like it's I like to call it the deep end of the pool for sure. And so like starting in those non-competitive markets was the key to success for me when I was back, but that was a long time. That was 2018.
Yeah, what's interesting is that is a tactic. That's definitely a tactic. Like Stephen, we may have spoken about this once upon a time when I had you on the Managed by Stats podcast all those years ago, where we were talking about if you can't afford to go after your primary keywords, start with long tail keywords that have less traffic, get that revenue generation, and then move into those other ones. That's kind of like what that would be.
Any sales are good sales. And would you rather pay more or less for a sale?
Yeah.
Most sellers are sub $1 million in sales. So they're going to go put the little extra work, put together those extra PPC campaigns for long tail keywords, show up in the Canadian market before the US because it's harder, but it's cheaper, right? Those are the things that people are going to do because they got tenacity and grit straight into the veins. And so it's respectable. Anybody that's dodging and weaving and playing the boxing game with Amazon and Jeff Bezos, by all means, I support that. In terms of scalable things, the US market is where it's at, will be for the foreseeable future. Temu, TikTok, all these other platforms that are flash payment with good funding but come and go in less than 2 to 3 years are going to go the same way that Jet went. They're going to go the same way that a lot of other platforms have gone. So Amazon's here. I think, Neil, you mentioned that we're seeing Amazon enter the mature phase. I think we're still at the top of the peak for a couple more years before we're in late stage. But I do see the turning point. I see the inflection point. But Amazon is still growing. And until Amazon peaks on its growth, I don't think we're late stage.
Yep.
Yeah, I think about like just all the process of starting up and getting selling now is becoming like all the like all the additional fees that would just kneecap those small sellers, right? And part of those is because small sellers create quite a bit of headache and backlog within seller support. I know you're a big fan of seller support, but they're trying to clean out that as well, right? And getting the big business more and more involved in it, trying to get them away from their own e-com platforms and onto the Amazon platform where they can collect that 30% VIG, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's I mean, I was definitely surprised to see, the growing sellers on Amazon, but I think you're right, Stephen, with the TikTok and Temu and Shine and all those very well could be a flash in the pan, because I mean, everybody probably, well, maybe not everybody anymore, but wish that was going to be, the big platform for a while.
Right.
You mentioned jet.com, and yeah, that was a flash in the pan as well.
But with Jet, didn't Walmart buy jet.com and then just ruined it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, I don't know if you could say ruined it per se, but definitely couldn't integrate it. Right?
Yeah.
Well, so if I was Walmart and I had bought Jet, I would have been shipping Jet orders out of Walmart facilities.
Yeah.
That never happened.
Yeah.
And so what that tells me is that they logistically could not pull off the integration of the behemoth of the facilities versus the digital aspects. So whether that's behind the scenes, Walmart was using 1980s software that couldn't integrate with Jet, I don't know. The Jet people were super smart. They made a killing.
Yep.
Walmart just couldn't. It would be like if Blockbuster bought Netflix and killed it. That's how I see that acquisition.
Yeah. I think that's a good example of Blockbuster buying Netflix, because that's the big story from all of our childhood right there. The death of Blockbuster and Netflix taking over for sure.
Mixed feeling.
Yeah, I think one important thing here too, many of these new sellers never achieve a sale. Plenty stop selling after their first few sales, and some replace sellers that quit. So just because a million new sellers have joined, it does not mean a million new sellers are going to be selling anywhere the long term.
Yeah. I'd say a fraction of that.
Yeah, for sure.
I would love to know the data of sellers quitting, like specifically $1 million sellers that quit. That's the stat I would love to see. I don't think that exists, but I would love to see it.
Yeah. That would be an interesting one to see for sure. You could probably track that data somehow just by, if you had the data of, how much sellers are selling, and then watching those numbers change over a course of years to see which ones drop off,
Anecdotally, of every client that ever fires my Amazon guy, my agency, 1 out of 3 claim it's due to finances. And when I go back to check on them a year, 2 years later, almost every single one that canceled due to finances no longer exists. Yeah. So we do know there's a steep fall off, and it's like opening up a restaurant. 1 out of 3 restaurants survive past year 5. Yeah. So I think we could probably extrapolate. The numbers are probably worse than that for Amazon sellers. But if we look at like anybody that gets to the $1 million mark, how many of them exist in 5 years from now? It's at least 1 out of 3, probably.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. It's starting to sell on Amazon is easy, but being successful is not. And that's just true with every business out there, no matter what. Amazon was a little bit easier for a while. That's why so many people flocked there. But at this point, it's right on par with any other business.
Oh, I was going to say, at this point in the stage of Amazon, you really need an expert in your corner too, like someone to help guide you, make sure that you are making right decisions and thinking things through properly, or even just understanding the entire ecosystem space, whether it's like some type of mastermind group, whether you're looking for help. Sorry, I was just saying you definitely need support to make it through, because it's just so competitive now. You need some type of edge to make sure that you can give yourself a chance at success.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's a lot of it comes second nature to all of us sitting here because we've been doing it for a long time. But put yourselves in the shoes of someone just starting out. There's no way you're going to be able to accomplish what you need to without somebody helping you, some expert helping you out.
Before we go to the TikTok story, could I just pull our panel here? Give me a thumbs up if you think selling on Amazon is still worth it. So I'm giving a thumbs up.
Still worth it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
we're all biased on this, conference right here. Obviously, we all make money selling on Amazon currently. We all have services, etc. But I firmly believe, honest to God, that it's still worth selling on Amazon. So stats be damned. Make your own choices. If you're a new seller, yes, it's hard. It's not passive income. But what would you rather do? Would you rather go open up a restaurant or an Amazon business? Those are your options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my two friends that just started selling, 3 months ago, we hit the Q4 spike, and now we're into kind of the post-apocalyptic Q4 where sales are down and everything like that. And it's becoming more and more day-to-day business. These guys have no real idea what they're doing, and they're making, $6K a month. And so, that opportunity is still there. You just have to make sure that you know what you're doing and partnering with the right people to be able to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
Yep.